Welcome to another episode of Erik Wait Whiskey Studies, and in this video, going to do a head-to-head comparison between the GlenAllachie 15-year-old Speyside single malt Scotch whiskey and the Glendronach 15-year-old Highland single malt Scotch whiskey. Now, these distilleries have a little bit in common. Glendronach was previously owned by Billy Walker, who sold it to Brown-Forman in 2016. GlenAllachie was previously owned by Chivas Regal, which is owned by Pernod Ricard, which sold to Billy Walker in 2017. So, 2016, sold to Brown-Forman. Billy Walker, then goes on to buy, a year later, to buy GlenAllachie. Now, I'm going to pour myself an even amount of both of these, but before I do, I put a little sticker on the bottom of this. A little sticker on the bottom of it. So the one with the sticker on it is GlenAllachie. So that I have even pours, I'm going to pour myself 25 milliliters of each. And then I'm going to close my eyes, move them around a little bit, see if I can do somewhat of a blind tasting between the two. Both of these 15-year-old aged in Oloroso sherry cask. The Glendronach, as far as we can tell, spent a little bit of time in Pedro Jimenez, or PX cask. Both are non-chill filtered, natural color, and 46% alcohol by volume. Both of these are selling for under $100, within a buck or two in my neighborhood. The prices may be different where you live. So it's a really good head-to-head comparison. Now, if you're training your palate and doing head-to-head, sure, you might want to take a sherry cask peated with a sherry cask non-peated. You might want to take a bourbon cask versus a sherry cask in order to do those sort of comparisons to train your palate to perceive the different types of casks, or two sherry casks, one's at a higher ABV and one's at a lower ABV, in order to train your palate to detect the differences in the ABV level. There are different ways you can do blind tasting, do head-to-head, side-by-side on your own, so you can train your palate. It all depends what you want to do. For the sake of this one, what I want to do is really take two whiskeys that are very, very, very close to each other and see which one I like, and also be able to distinguish what is a Glendronach come across as versus GlenAllachie. Now, as I said, I want to do a somewhat blind tasting, so I'm going to close my eyes and I'm going to mix them around as much as possible without paying attention as to what the heck it is I'm doing, which is not necessarily an unusual activity for me. At my age, it doesn't take much to get me confused, get me mixed up, and try to remember what the hell it is I'm doing. So hopefully I have sufficiently mixed these up, and you were probably paying attention, so maybe you know where these are at. The other thing I'm going to do is, as I'm nosing these and tasting these, I'm going to close my eyes just in case the little sticky thing, the little sticky piece of paper on the bottom becomes visible. All right, now visually, copper in color, moderate tears, slight golden, slight orange character in there. This one is the same. Now, I'm going to move these bottles off to the side because currently I don't know which one's which. One of these could be Glendronach, one of these could be GlenAllachie. So I'm moving these off to the side so I don't start prejudicing myself thinking as to which one's which. All right, on the palate, on the nose, moderate intensity, caramel, dried black figs, sort of a fig compote, vanilla, slight dried oranges, the vanilla is really popping on that one. All right, the one on my right. Ooh, very similar. A lot of vanilla, a lot of spice, slight sulfury note. It's very slight. Figs, dates, raisins, a little caramel, vanilla, dried oranges, maybe a little dried lemon. Very, very, very similar. I'm gonna try this again on the nose. If there's any difference between these two that's standing out, It's just a hint more intense on the spice. Wow. Maybe a little bit more sulfury note on the one on my right, but they're so close, it's hard to tell. On the palate, spices up front. I mean, immediate delivery of spice, cinnamon, bacon spices, brown sugar, sort of like a barbecue rub, dried black figs, dates, raisins, the dried oranges show up in the middle, vanilla, caramel, toffee. Got a real nice long finish. I like the development. I like that spice showing up on the front. Drink a little bit of water. Now the one on my right. Now it seems softer on the nose than before. On the palate. Seems slightly sweeter than the one on my left. It isn't as intense on the spice, but the spice is there. And it doesn't have that slight sulfury note. It's slightly creamy on the palate, softer, not as intense. The one on my left has sort of a sharper focus of flavors going down the middle of the palate, whereas the one on my right is a little more softer, a little rounder, more going on the outsides. Nice development and nice length of finish. The differences between these two is subtle. If you ate lunch or dinner a couple hours ago or something like that, that might be enough to throw you off if we couldn't tell the difference between the two. This one, because it has that slight sulfury note, it's a little bit more focused. I'm going to one more time. Wow. Spice really shows up a lot more on the front. Damn. It's getting more and more difficult. I think because of the slight sulfur, and I'm talking this much, I think the one on my left is Glendronach. I find Glendronach tends to have more of a sulfury note than some other sherry cask whiskeys. But I could be wrong. If they were saltier, you might start going towards Bunnahabhain. So let me do a reveal and find out which one's which, and I'll tell you which one. I'm kind of leaning towards the one on my left, but that's a mood thing. I'm kind of leaning towards the one on my left. The one on my right is a little more graceful. It actually seems slightly older, actually, but the one on my left has a more slightly pungent spice notes, and just that slight sulfury note, which at the moment I'm kind of liking. So which one is which? This one is the GlenAllachie. The GlenAllachie. All right, so this is the GlenAllachie. I thought it could have been the Glendronach because I know Glendronach tends to have more of a sulfury note. But it's a sharper focus on the mid palate. It is a slightly more intense spice, and I liked it more. This one's a little softer, a little creamier, a little gentler. It seems older in terms of the acuteness of things can sort of dissipate and become more intermingled as a whiskey gets older. I would almost say it's almost as if it seems just a hint lower in ABV, but that's because of not as intense flavor. So between the two, the one that I preferred was the GlenAllachie, but because I was picking up a slight sulfury note, which I tend to think and associate with Glendronach, I actually thought it was a Glendronach, but I was wrong. So the winner in this is the GlenAllachie in terms of what I preferred, and I'm surprised that it has more of a slight sulfury note than I was expecting than the Glendronach, but it does have a slightly more intense flavor, and I think a little bit more delivery going down the mid palate. So the winner is the GlenAllachie, but both of these are absolutely fantastic whiskeys. If you've never done a head-to-head, and maybe you have the GlenAllachie, maybe you have the Glendronach, and you've not done head-to-head, great learning experience. You'll learn a lot more about whiskey when going side-by-side comparison than when you do just try them by themselves. Eventually, I'll work this out till I have 8 whiskeys side-by-side all at the same time, because that's what I'm going to have for the Council of Whiskey Masters Master Exam. I'm going to have to get myself accustomed to trying 8 whiskeys, probably over a 2-hour time period, but we'll see how that goes. Alrighty, that's it for this video. If you subscribe to this channel, I want to thank you very much. If you've not yet subscribed, but you'll like watching my videos, I would greatly appreciate if you would subscribe or ring the bell to be notified for when I go live or post a video. And if you've tried this side by side, let me know about it down below in the comment section. Until next time, Slàinte. Hey, don't forget to subscribe and check out these other whiskey videos.